Hello, beautiful people. This is Marisa Anglade on giving you the tea on everything healthy. Today, we're going to talk about intermittent fast. It's something that can be done that is sustainable, that is a way of life, that keeps you healthy and creates longevity. But it has to be done in a way that is, I believe, is correct. Everybody's entitled to their opinion. But before intermittent fast was kind of like made the thing or the fad, I was doing intermittent fast almost, how many years ago? 17 years ago. But the way that I learned it, it was that you have breakfast in the morning, and ideally breakfast should be no later than 9, but before 9. Ideally before 9, so we're looking at maybe anywhere between 6:30 up all the way until, well, 7-ish to 9, 7 to 9. But I know everybody have a different schedule, graveyard shift, whatever. We'll have to work early in the morning, but ideally 7 to 9. But anyway, before 10 o'clock. Now, that would be breakfast. Now, let's say you had breakfast you chose to have it at 7:30 or 8 o'clock. I had my breakfast around 8. And so I wouldn't eat till about 5 to 6 hours later. So that's 9, 10, 11, 12, 1, 2. So either I'm eating at 1 o'clock or I'm eating at 2. That would be lunch. So breakfast would be at 8, and then lunch would be either at 1 or 2 o'clock. Now, if I decide to have supper, now what time would supper be? If I had lunch at 1 o'clock, supper, dinner would be 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Supper would be 6. Now, you would have a good breakfast. That breakfast would consist on a plant-based diet. You would have your fruits first, because your sugars, your water, your fruits consist of water and sugar. So they will be eaten first. They're easily digested by the body. Now, the second thing would be your complex carbs. That would be your buckwheat grits or your waffles, if you do that, your grains, whole grains, whatever you make into that, whether it's buckwheat grits like we had this morning, with some lentil sausage and a handful of nuts, raw nuts or seeds, unsalted. And so you had, what I gave you was your sugars, your complex carbs, which is, carbs with fiber. And then I gave you your fats, your nuts. So your sugar, your complex carb, and your fats. Your fats take longer to digest. Now, with any breakfast meal, it's ideal to have fats at the end. Just a handful of raw pecans, walnuts, cashews, either one. Pistachios, we're not talking about peanuts. And you'd have a handful of that. That would allow you to remain feeling satisfied up to 4 to 5 hours. Now, in between that, you would drink water after 1 to 2 hours after you eat. So for intermittent fast, I hope I'm not confusing you, you would have your breakfast at the time that you have it, 7 or 8. 5 to 6 hours after that time, you would have your lunch. Now, this is a way to keep the belly fat, alleviate bloating, remain, keep that weight off, to not gain, and just allow a healthy bowel movement as well. So breakfast between 7 and 8, lunch between 1 and 2, depending on what time you had your breakfast, keeping it 5 to 6 hours. You want to eat in the morning. That's the fuel that you need to start the day. You don't drive your car on an empty tank. You also want to make sure that after you eat between that time, if you decide to have supper, it will be at 6, and then you don't have anything until the next day. To really lose the weight quick, lunch would be your last meal. And as it relates to supper, if you did have something, it would be something light. You eat like a queen or a king for lunch, a prince or a princess for queen, a king for breakfast, prince or princess for lunch, and a poor person for supper, or not at all. You're guaranteed to lose that weight much easily, those inches, if you ate a healthy breakfast, a healthy lunch, space them out. Don't drink until 2 hours after each meal or 1 hour after each meal, allowing the food to properly digest before you drink anything. And then going to bed without food in your stomach and waking up in the morning ready to chow down. But make sure you drink that water first.